Let's start putting things into motion by warmly greeting Ignas Valancius, practice lead at Baltic Global Business Services at IBM. Ignas will talk about why and how business leaders should care about ethics in AI. Ignas is passionate about AI and data technologies applications to solve business challenges and make lives better. During his 13 years at IBM, he has run different size and type of projects across multiple industries with focus on data. The last 4 years of his work was dedicated to AI and data solutions delivery for global clients with particular attention to cognitive customer care and scaled applications of AI. With a round of your applause, let's invite Ignas on the stage. Hello, Ignas.
Hi.
How did your morning start? Did you use any home assistant to play your favorite song to tell you how long will it take to get to your office?
Yeah, I believe that happens all the time without us even noticing that we are using that. For sure, I'm using some AI to blur my background and some things I don't want other people to see.
Absolutely. And I do see that you will be making a keynote on a very interesting topic because we usually are very much obsessed about the technology, the opportunities that it unfolds, but we sometimes tend to forget that in order to stay human beings and enjoy our life, there are some rules that should be applied, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so Ignas, the virtual stage is now yours. Good luck.
Thank you very much. And before I will deep dive into the topic, I want to bring a few key ideas out of this presentation and to share some light and maybe to spark some thoughts, not only at the technical level and how AI is going to rule the world, as well to understand how we can support that AI will not rule the world maybe so fast or even never. So looking into the world, and that's the recent survey where 5,000 companies in different regions around the globe were asked how AI is adopted much. As you can see by different region, different adoption rates. However, in general, around 74% are on the way of the companies exploring or deploying AI. What does it mean? Adoption rate is already quite high, and still there is a lot of room to improve that and to adopt it more. If you will check in the regions and the countries, your eye most probably will catch China and India. And we can talk later on why it is so. Looking into overall global market of AI, the market is really fragmented. The data is not the most fresh. Still, we can see a clear trend. There are no big companies that controls most of the market, and there are a lot of space where different sizes, different types of companies are in this market, taking a part in it and have a big impact to the market, as well as the market having impact to those companies. If we deep dive a bit more, MIT Technology Review published an analysis which identified that all of the major industries has at least one process, so one function, that AI is utilized in more than 40% of the cases. So it's progressing, it's already there. We had a few presentations already and much more to come, where we'll deep dive in different areas, whether that's cybersecurity, hiring, or other areas. So it's coming. And the challenge we see that it's coming as a business, it's coming as a technology. AI market size is growing at the compound annual growth rate of the 35% annually. And by 2029 is expected to be close to 500 billion. So it's a big market. It's a big thing. In Lithuania, on the introduction, it was mentioned as well, we have more than 40 matured companies that utilizes AI and more than 100 of startups. And all of these companies that are already utilizing, and all of the companies that and the businesses that are looking to utilize AI, they will have more or less similar challenges. There are data more than ever, especially pandemics has sparked that even faster when we all moved from our physical offices to remote work and from going to the shop ordering things online. We are a bit in the jungle because we still don't have a very clear regulation, and that reflects even to the very first slide where I showed one of the reasons why China is so far. Maybe they even do not think about the regulations. And the ethics and non-ethical behavior, it causes huge business losses. If we look into the news and we start seeing this trend, we heard before talking about the scanning CVs by AI and doing other assessments. We always need to keep in mind that we are talking here about the human. It really depends what was the training set of the data. Is it really non-biased? Is it fair for all the gender type? Is it fair for all the ages? Can it be some discrimination? And here it comes all the big concerns. Few are here, but if you start investigating and Googling, you will find many more. And there are some really expensive ones. So like, the famous Facebook and Cambridge Analytica cost really a fortune to solve it. And then it was a big impact. The same Dieselgate. At the very heart, we can say it's AI. Some technical people may argue it's not AI, it's some software. Still, in general, I would say there is some AI element in that part. And starting to focus a bit on the business side. So now, why we're talking about this? We see the bright future. AI will take all the boring stuff from accountants. They will be able to focus on creative financial things where the real problems are, and they don't need to do all the computational and math problems. And if we look into the evolution that happened all the time, and this is something not new. We had some steam engines, then some other machinery, and we are accelerating into that evolution. At the same time, some companies benefited from that a lot, and others vanished, and we don't know about that because it really impacts the brand reputation and the trust. Regulations, they are not so fast and they follow, but they are coming, and we need to start thinking about that today. Complexity of all the AI deployments is increasing really, really fast, and we see some outcomes of that. The number of people we need to maintain the solutions and other things. And things like social justice as well. We see the recent forum about the overall environment. We see the green trajectory is getting more and more sustainability and other factors. And AI, it is becoming slowly and will become part of those discussions. Just to bring even more attention, and I know for this auditorium it's not new, there are a number of regulations happening globally. None of them maybe are so at the stage to be so important and so active as of now. What's most important for us being part of the European Union, that European Union is a pioneer, and we already have a draft regulation for trust in AI. This means it's just a matter of time when it will come. We all know perfectly GDPR It was a shock. Now we managed to live with that. And the same is coming for AI. So we need to start thinking about that today. And we have some really good reasons why we need to think about that today. Because if someone read about the GDPR and potential impact for your business, similar is planned to be with the AI. The fines are going to be really significant, and control is expected really to happen at some point of time. Today, if we will start looking what this means, so what are ethical AI principles? What should I do to be prepared for these regulations? What should I do to make sure my business model is sustainable? Or what should I do to make sure that my company will not need to redo the things again and pay for the IT department or the vendor a huge amount again? And this is one of the very complex pictures. It covers all the main themes. You will have human rights, human values, responsibility, human control. So if I will ask to play some song in the morning, I need to make sure I have a control to choose the song, to avoid the situations that the song will not be played based on what AI decides. It needs to be fair. It's really, really important. It needs to be transparent, and someone needs to be able to explain it. There are situations, for example, with Facebook, we're hearing in media that at some point Facebook cannot explain why one or another thing started to happen with all their algorithms, and that starts raising some concerns. It needs to be safe and secure. Avoid the situation talked before about the Arnold drones flying in some, action movie scenarios. And let's hope that will really not happen. And you need to have a accountability. So who makes the decision, and privacy. And there are a lot of for each of this bubble, you can find a number of papers where the situation is analyzed and interpreted, and a number of potential solutions offered. So the complexity is really high. If we put a bit of the grouping, again, it still looks very complex. Here are listed the main organizations that are applicable for us in Europe, and their ethics, AI ethics principles. And we see they overlap a lot. The red box indicates that all the agreements, all the initiatives by the businesses are focusing less on human agency and all the robustness, because it's so expensive. And it still looks really complex and a lot of things to be discussed. And that's why I want to pay attention that usually, especially the business people will say, okay, this is for the IT guys, AI guys to solve. I'm doing business. I don't care. And IT guys, yes. AI guys, yes, they can solve. However, the big question is what to do in such situations, as you can see now on the screen. It's a hypothetical situation. It's an experiment done by MIT. They asked, I believe, more than 4 million people. So what's the right answer? And what to choose? Should the self-driving car kill the baby or the grandma? And very interestingly, not necessarily only IT guys can decide this, because the main outcome of this survey, and there were a number of interpretations done of that, is that it really depends where you are from. In Asia, in Japan, you might get one answer. In Europe, you'll have different answer. In Northern Europe, you will have one situation. In South of Europe, you will have, again, different situation, and it is based on culture. So the key thought from this picture is that it's not only IT guys or people from university who are exploring and creating new networks, new techniques, machine learning should think about the ethics. It's a social question. It's part of the business. It's part of the church. It's part of the politics. Everyone has a stake in here because it impacts everyone around us. And we need to be prepared for that. That sounds, again, very complex, a lot of effort. If you look from the business side, a lot of money and a lot of investment, and not necessarily clear output, not necessarily clear business value. And maybe today, looking realistically, we are not even yet at that stage that we need to know all these things, decide today, and start investing and focusing only on that. No, really not. What we can start doing is to get some small steps. One of the really powerful things that can help is to get a person responsible for AI ethics in your company. This person can spend half an hour per week, an hour per month or so, just to have a objective to sometimes think about AI ethics and start very, very small steps. So monitor what regulations are happening. And that will be the very powerful first step. Next step, again, usually do not cost a lot. You might have a discussion with your recruitment agency, what they can offer you. And the number of analyses and papers, it was proved that diverse teams, they naturally help you to have some things eliminated early enough before they reach your end customers and before they have a big impact on your overall business idea and solution. Again, might be a bit boring, not interesting. If you have implemented the first two things, some documentation and policy reminders are extremely powerful. It really depends on the culture. I totally agree. You might say we prefer human over documentation, and that's fine. Then you need to think maybe this person that's responsible for AI ethics can have a word now and then to share the major updates, to make sure that's happening and people remember this. Because as we saw before, regulations somewhere in the horizon and it's coming slowly. So this would be, in my opinion, really easy wins. We see a number of clients applying that really successful. Next step, if you are really got some idea already and you say, okay, so if I need to know, I'm a business leader and I need to know something about AI, not that just my IT guys are doing that. It's a really good toolkit, oversight toolkit for boards of directors prepared by World Economic Forum to provide an education about AI, not only ethics in general. What is AI? How it works? How to use it for your business? Depends on your business, depends on your company, depends on your role. You might find different parts interesting into it. I would really advise to check at least part of it. So if you're running a big company, you can have a really fruitful conversation with your IT department. If you have a small startup that is based on AI and the whole business model is based on AI, it will help you to, when you're talking to your clients, because clients will start asking at some point the questions. So is your solution ethical? Will it, act honestly, or will it, on what data is it trained, and so on and so forth. So this is powerful. Going a bit more technical, again, the European Commission here is progressing quite well there is a called Altai checklist. That would help to do you some deep dive assessment. This wouldn't take too much time, but it already will give you an indication if you are using AI in your company today, if you're planning to use. You can see and have your assessment. So where it is going, how far I am from being compliant, how close I am to comply with the upcoming rules. It might spark some new ideas. It might spark some new thoughts, easy wins, even maybe some competitive advantage you can use with your competitors. And then social license. Social license is something really not strictly defined, but that would help you to have it within your teams, within your clients. And you can start thinking, saying, I'm fair. I'm not using your data to train other clients' models. I'm not using your data, to sell you something hidden. I'm saying my solution is fair, and that will start building the trust, because trust is really important. We have smart clients, we have smart users who gradually starts raising these questions. We see different situations at a different state, and that's, the more data, the more questions will go. In case you already as that and you say, okay, so less talking, more doing on the technical side. There are a number of open source tools, the ones I share here on the screen. They are dedicated for different topics in all those big diagrams I have shown before. And these actual tools, actual code that helps you to, if you are thinking, all right, so how do I document my AI solution if I want to do that transparency? And I don't know. I never written the document. I hired a number of those people who never lied to me on the interviews. They said they know everything, and now they need to write the documentation. And the last document they've written was something in the school. AI Fairness 360 Toolkit would help you with that. And then other fact sheets and some, even to protect your solution. That's you might not think in the very beginning, but adversarial robustness toolbox that would help you to test if your solution is protected enough, or if you will advertise it, and then you will have to solve some bad situations and bad issues. So all these more technical tools can help you. There are a number of them on the Google, and different companies provide open source, paid ones, many options. You just need to start thinking and using them. And I want to end with my presentation with one thought, that the toughest thing about the power of trust is that it is very difficult to build and very easy to destroy. So I would suggest to keep that in mind. If we build the trust with our clients, with our customers, we need to keep it. And our solutions, the clients may not understand them now. The clients may not understand them tomorrow, but we never know what will happen the day after tomorrow, what breach we'll have, what regulations we'll have. And that trust will be really important if we start thinking about it today. Thank you a lot.
Thank you so much, Ignas, for your presentation. We do have a few questions that I'd like to address to you. First one would be, taking in mind that ethical standards for AI vary depending on the cultural and religious background of the country, what aspects should startups take in consideration planning their business growth and expansion?
It's really complex question, because as we
do have time, no worries, Ignas. You can escalate on this.
Yeah, the thing is, not necessarily I know myself all the answers, and that's why the part of my presentation was to start with the simple steps, because the industry itself, it's maturing. There are, I would say, different companies focusing maybe a bit how to cheat in some spaces to get the advantage. Other companies would act fair, and they will evaluate all the different aspects, how to stay compliant and to keep the trust. But I would say start thinking about that in understanding what region you are acting and where are your clients. Is it Europe? Is it global? Start thinking what are the norms your clients are applying and what your solution is delivering. One thing would be for the virtual agent, which helps you to find the job. Another thing would be for the self-driving car. Once you start exploring these things, I believe naturally we'll start finding the answers and actions that you can take.
Okay, thank you for that. You just reminded me the main issue with AI and self-driving cars, right? Is it a granny or is it a mother? Will we ever have an answer to this question?
We will need to have, definitely.
Or it will always depend
like
on the cultural differences, right? In some nations, the elderly are the ones that should be respected. In other nations, the more practical ones, the ones that have the most time left, let's say like this. It's very, very not polite to say like this, of course.
Exactly. And that's why the whole idea is that AI is not just the people who care about the technology decision. They will make their decisions quite easy because, most of them have some statistics, math, binary thing. That's, pretty fast to do the calculation, what's more valuable for the country, for the company, to which one to save. But, is it the world we want to live in? And when Netflix recommends you what to watch this evening, and it is really a minor impact, and you can say and ignore it, but still, it's already putting some inception for you, and at some point you want to control if you want to do that or you don't want to be controlled.
Absolutely. Okay, next question. Could society, and especially the young generation, education in AI be one of the driving factors behind setting ethics boundaries for AI?
Education definitely is really important, and I would say it should not be, it must be part of the education, because this is the new world we live in. And when the cars started, most probably didn't have any rules, and you were going in the same street with the horses. So now we don't have horses, but AI is giving us a different speed, a different pace that we can take, and the decisions can be having a different impact. So we must focus on that, definitely.
Okay, Ignas, and maybe the last question from my side. Since we are speaking in the AI for business track, what would be your advice for the business owners or for future founders? How to balance the ethical part and a need to find an unfair competitive advantage, especially when AI can give you so much power?
That's a very tricky question.
No one said it's going to be easy, right?
Yeah, and I don't believe there is a one single answer to that. And that's why we, if we look in our society, I believe we still have much simpler issues that are not yet solved by politicians or by the society itself. And if we want to start doing something, my personal view would be that very technical people should start thinking a bit about more of the business and impact to the society. And the very business-oriented people, they need to admit that we are living in the times that you must to do some reading about the technology, and you must to start understanding what is AI. AI, it's not the Arnold Schwarzenegger on the movie. If you have that understanding, it's really a time to invest a little bit to understand a bit more what really it is, at what maturity level it is, and what's possible in the next years.
Thank you so much for your answers, Ignas, and thank you so much for bringing such a topic to the surface of this huge ocean. Ladies and gentlemen, that was
Thanks
Ignas Valancius, practice lead at Baltic Global Business Services at IBM.